The summons arrived at dawn, drifting through Krill's window like a relic from another age. It was written on a strip of ancient kelp so brittle it should have dissolved, yet the message burned with bioluminescent precision. By decree of the old ocean, you are called to council in the sacred glimmering grotto. Come alone. Speak of this to none. Krill reread the words until the light faded from them. The old ocean, half deity, half rumor, was said to sleep in the trench below all trenches, dreaming the tides themselves into motion. That such a being would summon a common market crab from the gutter district was absurd. And yet, the summons pulsed with living current, as if the sea itself insisted. He left before first shift, slipping through alleys where propaganda banners hung limp and colorless in the weak light. 3 times he was stopped at checkpoints manned by shell guards whose armor gleamed with fresh resin. They studied his past with suspicion and distaste, as though his very poverty might be contagious. Move along, the last guard growled. Touch nothing. Speak only when spoken to. And if you're wasting the old ocean's time. He didn't finish. No one ever did. The threat of the trenches was warning enough. The glimmering grotto revealed itself gradually, like a memory returning. The water grew warmer, the light thickened, and then the cavern opened around him, a cathedral carved by time rather than claws. Coral pillars twisted upward in impossible geometries, each surface shimmered with patterns of living light that pulsed in rhythm with the tides. Schools of translucent fish wove through the beams like moving constellations. At the heart of the chamber stood 5 pedestals arranged in a perfect circle. Black volcanic stone, white limestone, golden sandstone, pink marble, and gray granite, colors of the 5 known seas. 4 already occupied. On the black pedestal perched an ancient hermit crab whose shell was a museum of prehistory, layered with fossils and fragments of smaller shells. His eyes burned like lanterns set deep in caves. I am Scuttle, he said, voice rasping through centuries. I carry the shells of the past, and sometimes their weight is heavier than I care to admit. On the white pedestal rested a decorator crab of breathtaking beauty. Her carapace bloomed with living coral, bits of glass, and algae that shimmered in slow, hypnotic motion. Coralia, she introduced herself, bowing her jeweled head. I gather beauty where it still dares to grow. There is so little of it left. The gold pedestal was occupied not by a crab at all but by something far older, a horseshoe crab so immense that even the coral seemed to lean away from it in respect. Its shell was dark blue-green, its form almost prehistoric. Chitin, it said simply, the voice flat and timeless. For 100 million years I have watched the waters change. I measure time differently than you. On the pink pedestal crouched a massive stone crab, his claws big enough to crush coral blocks. A faded shell guard insignia marred his armor like an old wound. Barnaby, he rumbled. Once I enforced order. Now I'm not sure I understand what that word means. The gray pedestal remained empty. Krill hesitated, then climbed onto it. The others watched in silence as he settled there, still feeling the salt sting of disbelief. The water dimmed. A low vibration shuddered through the grotto, the sound of the ocean itself inhaling. When the voice came, it was everywhere at once, in the current, in their shells, in the marrow of the reef. My children, my reef. You have been chosen not for power but for perception. Because you still remember how to question. The lights around them swirled, forming the image of an orange figure whose armor gleamed like fresh oil. Prawnald, sovereign of the porcelain throne, radiated charisma so polished it seemed synthetic. Honored representatives, he began, every syllable rehearsed to perfection. The minute crisis has reached its tipping point. He gestured, and the water filled with projected images, malformed crustaceans slithering through rusted wreckage, their shells twisted by metallic growths. These creatures were once like us, Prawnald continued. They ventured into the poison zones of the dry clog. They chose contamination. Now they return seeking to infect our purity. The barriers hold them back, for now, but their envy festers. They covet our prosperity, our cleanliness, our truth. The word truth glinted like a blade. Krill studied the others. Scuttle's eyes were unreadable, ancient. Corellia's coral ornaments fluttered anxiously. Chiton remained still as stone. Barnaby's claws flexed, the gesture of a soldier rehearsing obedience. The solution, Prawnald proclaimed, is unity through purity. The resin system safeguards our molting, the barriers protect our trade. Yet whispers of weakness spread among us, traitors who question our purpose, who pity the mimics. They speak of tolerance, but tolerance is corrosion. He paused, eyes sweeping the circle. Stand with me now, or stand with them. Then the illusion burst into motes of light and was gone. Silence filled the grotto, heavy as sediment. The old ocean's voice returned, soft yet resonant enough to bend thought. You have heard the king's words. But currents may carry poison as easily as truth. Something deeper moves beneath this crisis, something born not of invasion but of fear. Seek what lies beneath the words before the reef itself rots beyond healing. The presence faded like a receding tide. Scuttle spoke first, the grinding of his shell echoing faintly. In my years I've learned that crises arrive on schedule for those who profit from them. A perfect enemy at a perfect time, it smells of orchestration. Corellia nodded, voice trembling but firm. When beauty is censored, power fears reflection. Every mural that doesn't glorify Prawnald is destroyed. Why would truth need such fragile armor? Chiton's compound eyes pulsed with spectral light. I have sampled the waters near the barriers. The chemistry contradicts Prawnald's claims. Contamination levels rise inside our borders, not beyond them. Barnaby shifted, guilt heavy in his tone. I've served the guard for 20 molting seasons. I told myself every arrest kept us safe. But lately the only creatures we're protecting are the ones already rich enough to buy safety twice. Krill's voice was quiet but steady. I don't understand politics. I just know my friend Molly died this week, shell rot during his treatment. If the resin saves us, why are more of us dying? If the barriers defend us, why does the water taste of fear? The others regarded him in solemn silence. Scuttle clicked his aged claws. The young one speaks the oldest wisdom, the question that costs. Corellia drew a deep breath. Then we agree, we investigate. Chiton's tone was almost mathematical. Probability that Prawnald's narrative represents complete truth, 0. Probability that deception underlies policy, near certainty. Therefore, inquiry is logical necessity. Barnaby straightened, his shadow large against the coral. I swore to protect the reef. Maybe that means protecting it from its rulers. Krill felt the current shift around them, the subtle pull of a new direction. The old ocean's summons had done its work. Politics had found him at last, soft-shelled and unwilling, but ready. As they left the grotto, the bioluminescence dimmed behind them like closing eyes. The city awaited, bright and poisoned. For the first time, Krill sensed a pattern in the darkness, something vast stirring beneath the currents, calling the reef to molt or die.
Thank you.